then you're going to want to stay on with me today because I have the author of Flower Love, Kristen Griffith-VanderYacht. He's a Seattle-based judge. My notes are all messed up. I'm going to start over so I don't have to edit it. And I only have like a couple people watching me live right this second, so it's all good. And I have a weird feedback thing. I just heard myself talking. There it is. Okay. Here we go. We're going to go live now. All right. Good morning, guys. Thank you for joining me. If you have a love for flowers, then you're going to want to stay on with me for today's interview with the author of Flower Love, Kristen Griffith-VanderYacht. He's a Seattle-based florist, a judge on Netflix's The Big Flower Fight, and now author. In his book, Kristen brings his awesome sense of humor and keen eye for design to make floral arrangements accessible to floral enthusiasts of all backgrounds, with gorgeous pictures of 45 arrangements. Guys, look how big this book is. Huge. Step-by-step visuals and a geometric approach to floral design, Flower Love serves as an empowering and a delightful guide for individuals seeking to infuse their everyday lives with imaginative florals. Self-care with flowers, if you will. And that's a familiar theme, right, guys? If you're here with us live, then be sure to stick around and post your questions for Kristen because we are giving away a bunch of free copies of this new book at the end of the show. And I know, I'll be selecting the viewers who are most engaging. Right, guys? All right. So before we get started, I also want to just go over a few exciting things that we have. And also, if you're watching live, say hello. Let us know where you're from, where you're watching from. I love those shout outs, guys. And I wanted to make sure that, I'm doing an interview with an author and we're talking about a new book. So I thought it would be really fun because I've interviewed a bunch of authors and we've talked about a lot of books. So we've created a page on Mayesh.com that has all of that on there. So you can even get the link if you can't find it for Kristen's book, but I'll be sharing that, of course. But you just go to mayesh.com/books. And of course, after the show, right? The other thing I wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of is we have a new design challenge happening right now. And you definitely want to join in on the fun because we've teamed up with the breeder of excellence, Jip, Dan Ziegler, and we're giving away a trip to Ecuador for two for one lucky grand prize winner, guys. So this is an amazing design challenge. I hope that you join. Check out the details, obviously, on mayesh.com/blog. And also, last but not least, we're looking for our new 2024 Mayesh Design Stars, and there's still time to apply. We're accepting submissions until the end of the month. So get those in, guys. And with that, I am going to bring on Kristen. Hey, Kristen.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And I'm so excited to get into this book that I have next to me. Again, it's beautiful and big. Honestly, it's probably one of the biggest books that I've received in a while. I feel like everyone does like kind of the smaller books and all of this. So this was just refreshing to get. It's like, as big as a coffee table book, which I love.
That was really the point behind the design. When I had originally pitched the book, I pitched it as a coffee table book. And my editor was like, well, people don't really buy coffee table books unless it's like a coffee table book from Rihanna or Dior. And I was like, okay, aren't I Rihanna too?
Exactly.
But realistically, I wanted to create something that was visually as appealing as a coffee table book. I know that when I buy floral books, and I have a lot of books on floral design, I always buy them with the intention of reading them and reading every word. And you know what I end up doing? I end up reading like 2 pages of it and looking at all the pictures. Right. And so I wanted it to be that for people. If you never read one word of this book, you have a stunning, beautiful book with gorgeous photos. And if you do happen to read it, you'll be so pleasantly surprised because it's full of information and humor and great design tips. And it really breaks down all of the things that you need, no matter what level you're at, to upgrade your work or just to dive deeper into yourself through flowers.
Right. I love it. And I want to talk about that more because I did read it
Oh,
and
good.
and I what I loved was the stories that you shared and kind of even like the big break piece, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
But before we talk about the book, just in case people don't know who you are, can you just introduce yourself and give us a little bit about your flower story and how you came to be in this moment right now?
Oh, wow. My name is Kristen Griffith-VanderYacht, and that is my real name. It's not a stage name. A lot of people think, wow, that name is crazy. That's my real name. I live in Seattle with my family of 2 boys, and I am a floral designer, television host, public speaker, um, all of those things. And I sort of came into floral design by accident. I was talking to someone about this the other day. I was actually going to grad school to become a therapist. And during that time, I just had extra time. And I was like, oh, when am I ever not working 6 jobs in New York? And even then,
Right.
I think I was still working 3 jobs. But I had time. And so I decided to explore my other interests, and it was flowers. And I started interning at a flower shop in Brooklyn, New York, called Sprout Home. It's no longer there. It's now called Geometry Gardens. And I fell in love. And being able to have that juxtaposition between the therapist track and the floral track, the answer became very clear over time. And so I took the leap, and I was very lucky. And I say that because I think I kind of go over that, how my luck played out in the book as well. And so I don't want to give too much away. I want you to read it. And I think that I was very lucky, and I think that I was in the right place at the right time. And I also think I had the creativity, uniqueness, nerve, and talent that it took to make all of those opportunities come to life. And so I'm super, super, super grateful for that. And I'm here today. That's really how it all happened. You just sort of follow the thread.
I love it, and I feel like I was just talking about this just a couple of weeks ago about accidental florists, and, I actually, I was in Naples, we were visiting one of our customers there, he had, like, a beautiful open house, and I was just asking him, like, "How did you become a florist?" And he was like, "Well, I was in this traveling band, and I became a florist," you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love hearing everyone's story, and, like, with you in, studying to be a therapist, and I feel like one of our past design stars, Hosfa Lewis, she also kind of went into, about psychology and all of that and kind of fell into this. And there's so many people, especially with like the therapy and psychology part of it, and then end up in flowers, which I think is just beautiful and perfect for each other.
Well, it's really about connection. I think what a lot of people will discover if you sort of peel back the curtain or peel back the pedal, pun intended, is you will discover that what we're all looking for in our lives is a form of connection, whether it's connecting with people, whether it's connecting with ourselves. And nature is actually a great pathway to connection. So when we're able to surround ourselves with flowers and have that conversation with the greater world around ourselves, it makes it a lot easier for us to connect with people and ourselves. And it can be a very satisfying creative experience. And that's what I really want this book to be for people. I want it to be a guide on, yes, how to make beautiful floral arrangements, but I want it to be an excuse for you to go and indulge in the things that you love in order to take care of yourself better.
I love it. That's perfect. So we are here to talk about this book, Flower Love.
Yay!
And so, yes. And so obviously we're already starting to talk about it, but what really brought you to kind of create this book, and what can readers expect when they open this up?
This book for me is what I had always wanted. as a floral designer. I'm not formally trained. I did not go to any sort of flower school. Everything that I've learned, I've either sort of made up along the way, or I've been so lucky. Again, luck plays a huge part in my journey, to be around people and around designers and around other creatives who are smarter than me, who know way more than I do, who continue to teach me and continue to show me their life experience. And I'm just like a sponge. I'm like, show me, tell me, give me everything. And so when you open this book, it really is there to demystify the floral design process, to give you an entry point into thinking about flowers and design in a new way, in a very easy way. All of the arrangements are broken down like a baking recipe. You've got your ingredients, and then you have your step-by-step guide, and then there's lots and lots and lots of photos in the book to break it down. So there's really no guesswork uh, needed in the design process. It's really all there for you, and that's the point. We want to make it easy. We want to make it fun.
Right, right. And for all levels too. That's what I love about this. It's not, this is I feel like I'm very small, but in this thing, but like this one, for example, and the shape of it and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think it can be inspiring whether you've been designing for your whole entire life, or whether you're just starting to learn about floral design and realize that's a passion for you.
Yeah, that's what's really important, is that it has something for everyone. And there's some hard designs in here that I say this is an expert level, and each design comes with its own sort of introduction and heading. For example, okay, so this one, which by the way, this is my mom.
Oh, beautiful.
This bouquet that I've designed, it comes with its own breakdown, and it's really hard to see because everything's backwards, but it will give you your difficulty level. And it says advanced, and then it will also tell you the season. It's summer, so you can expect to find these blooms on this page, which is your ingredients list, all there. And then I also give you a mood. And I feel like flowers and design have the power and the ability to evoke a mood. Sometimes I want to feel like I'm dark and dangerous. There are other times where I want to feel girly and feminine. There are other times where I want to feel textural and prickly. And those moods can convey emotion, and that's what really design is all about, and that's what flower love is all about. It's about finding the emotion through flowers, and the emotion that I found in this book was love.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so I already have a couple people asking where they can get the book. Do you want to
Yeah.
tell them where they can get it?
Yeah, you can go to wildbloomfloral.com. That's my website, to grab the book. Or if you want to go to any of your local booksellers, you can get it. It's really sold everywhere. I think if you have like a smaller mom and pop's shop, they may need to order it in, as it always goes. But yeah, so you can get it anywhere. The most direct place is wildbloomfloral.com.
Perfect. And I just wanted to let everyone know, in case you joined us a little bit later, that we are going to be giving away some books. So make sure that you are posting some comments, engaging with us. If you have any questions for Kristen, let us know what those are. All right. My next question for you, Kristen, is obviously about the cover. So, and I don't know if you want to show the cover, because you're
Yeah,
a little
sure.
bit bigger than me. I'm like a little rectangle. There it is. Beautiful. So obviously you have all these beautiful pictures in your book. How did you decide which one to feature on the cover?
It was not easy. So I also took all of the photography for the book as well.
You did?
I photographed, creative directed, designed, everything in the book, all the prop styling, all of the any visual you see in the book was done right here in my studio. So as I was shooting that arrangement, I was actually on the phone I had my earbuds in. I was on the phone with my best friend at the time, and I was like crying. I was so sad. I was like, we were in the middle of COVID. I was just like a miserable in a miserable place, which I know we all were. And I was like trying to like shoot this arrangement through the tears. And my friend called me and he was like, you just need to like take a minute. Let's take a break. Let's just like step back. And I like was able to step back and then come back into the space. And I remember being on the phone and the camera clicking and me looking at my camera screen for like the little digital preview and being like, oh my God, Alex, I think I just shot the cover for the book. Everything about it just happened to line up. The lighting, the colors, the focus of it. Like it all just happened to really line up in a very um profound way. And I knew in that moment. But then you send it off to your publisher and your editor, and they have their own sorts of ideas of what they want for the cover and this and that. So there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of testing different concepts out. It was honestly between this one and it was between they really loved mauve for the cover of the book. I'm going to see if I can find it for you all so you can see what I'm talking about. But there's an arrangement called Mauve that they really loved as well.
Right.
For the
And
cover of
that's
the book.
beautiful. Yeah.
I loved it as well. I thought that the ratio of negative space in that photo just wasn't quite enough for me to be able to digest it immediately, which is what I want from the cover. I want you to be able to look at it and know that's a floral design book immediately. And so this one was really, for me, the most obvious. And this just like, I don't know, it just felt so right. It just felt like something I had never seen before. It gave me all that high-end design that I wanted people to feel like they could access, and it was at their own fingertips and that they could create for themselves.
I love it. I love it. And honestly, I feel like I mean, I love pink's one of my favorite colors. I have pink all over my office and all that fun stuff. But it's also just refreshing to see something that is beautiful that isn't blush, pink, white type of thing because that's such like a thing
Yes.
and I love just the texture and the details and it's just totally different and kind of pops out at you. So,
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's a really amazing story that correlates with this arrangement as well, which is the introduction for this arrangement. So it all just felt very much aligned with the heart of the book.
I love it. Let's see, we have a couple of comments here. So, Rosemary Garden Floral says, "This book is such a great concept, looks easy to understand, the recipes, I appreciate that." So,
Yes.
thank
Thank
you.
you. It is. It's very easy. That's the whole point. And if honestly, Rosemary, I hope I said your name right. If you never read a word, that's okay. It's so pretty. I promise you, you're just gonna be like, oh, the pages. It's great.
It is beautiful, but I do recommend reading it.
I do too.
Yeah, and then, Flowers by Bianca Jade. They say, "I'm self-taught and working off Instagram and Facebook. I'd like to know how my teeny tiny business" not sure what that means, but "feel lost on how to." Maybe how
Oh,
to grow? I think we're
yeah.
missing a word. How to grow my teeny tiny business.
Yeah, I think that is, I think the age-old question. I get that question a lot. And I would say that there's a combination of things. It's a combination of connecting with your local community, right? Because especially if you're looking to break into the wedding and events industry, um, connecting with wedding planners. Wedding planners and event designers really hold the key to the luxury business because anyone who's willing to spend top dollar on flowers, which I believe we all deserve, and that's an entire conversation within itself. Um, Anyone who's willing to spend that much money really wants to have an all-inclusive service. They don't want to be having to search for this person and search for that person and piece it together. They want to drop the big fat check off at their wedding planner and have them do all the work. And for them just to be like traffic directors and telling them what to do, right? So I would say if you're looking to break into the wedding and event industry in a way that is, works for you financially, make connections with your planners, try to get on those lists if you can. Um, and also go about the vendors, like go to the event spaces. A lot of times event spaces will have preferred vendors that they want to work with. That can really, really, really help. 90% of my business is through word of mouth. I couldn't even track how much of it is actually from like ads or joining this special exclusive club list on this blog or joining this thing over here where you pay a membership fee. Rarely, if ever, pans out. It's truly through word of mouth and a recommendation from
Right.
someone else.
Right.
I hope that
Yeah.
helped.
I think it does, and what your advice, I think, just applies to business in general, like, that we get a ton of business too from referrals and, but social media does help us in terms of getting in
Yeah,
front of people, and I think it's just learning how to use social, how to use the geo hashtags, and,
yeah,
it's even, like, kind of doing a virtual version of what you're saying, like, when you're reaching out to planners and event spaces, you can also do that through DMs and things like that as well. And you can DM people in your community. It's just really about networking and getting yourself out there and people knowing who you are.
and I'll say one more thing about social media because I didn't get to touch on that. Um, do I would say the thing that I would want for everyone as they're engaging on social media, and by no means am I a social media expert. My social media is erratic. Okay. At least I think it's erratic. I would say that try to hold on to yourself as much as you can through the process because at the end of the day, you are in a creative space. And when you're in a creative space, you need to be mentally taken care of in order to produce your best work. And so try to remember that you are in a creative space and take care of yourself and honor yourself. Don't try to play to this nebulous algorithm. It will never work. It will never feed you with the results, and it will never feed your soul. And at the end of the day, I want you to hold on to your soul and yourself because that is where you're going to be able to tap into the best work from a creative place. And when people are able to see you being yourself and authentic and loving what you do, and it comes through in your work, that's where you're gonna find the most success. Because I wanna be around fun people. I don't wanna be around people who are trying too hard, right?
Right.
Nobody wants to do that. I wanna be
Right.
around the cool person, and the cool person is you. You are already that person. And so use your creativity and use your flowers to express that side of yourself.
I love it. So Jill says social media, and Patty says we need classes in social media. I know. We
It's
need to
the
do that.
bit.
That's a whole nother show. And by
It
the
is.
way, I have had past shows. So if you want to go to mayesh.com, you can definitely look for those. I've talked a lot about social media and you can always reach out because, I kind of do that for a living. Just a little bit. Oh, and Jill says I took classes in social media and it didn't do anything. I'm sorry, Jill, but
It's so hard. It
it
really
is.
is legitimately
It is
hard.
tough, but I love what you say about just kind of being yourself because one of my pet peeves is I just had it happen to me today. Like I watch, obviously I'm not paying attention as much as I should, but I try because that's part of what I do. And I hear people talking and then they all start talking like each other. And then even
Yeah.
like I just got another, kind of ad commercial in my feed for a very well-known sunglass thing, and it's like, again, this lady's talking like 5 other ladies, like
Yeah.
the whole, like, bestie and the way
Right.
their cadence and everything, and I was like, "Oh my gosh." Like, that's
There's
way
there's
too
a lot
far.
And there's a lot of that, and there's also a lot of, and I'm guilty of it too. There's a lot of sort of like chasing,
Right.
right, on social media where you sort of are trying to like keep up with the trends because we've been told that the algorithm wants you to be using this sound and you have to fall within these parameters of the length of the video and use this music because it's popular and it's number one and this or that, or use this template. And there's all sort of this information that you don't even know where it's coming from. And I find that rat race to be exhausting. And so, again, I will say, build out your social media in a way that feels authentic to you, that is not stressful for you. And if you, by chance, because there's no formula and there's no recipe, unlike the recipes in the book, there's no recipe for a viral video.
Right.
And what happens is if you get one viral video and it directs people to your page, they're going to look to see who you are. And if they can see who you are, then they will give you the engagement that you're looking for. But if they go to your page and it's all over the place and they can't get a strong sense of who you are, then they're probably not going to engage in the way that you want them to. So just do the work that you want to do and don't worry about the viral videos. I have a video that went viral on my Instagram page that is probably one of the worst quality videos I've ever made.
Right.
I truly, I shot it on like my iPhone. It sat on my phone because I thought it was such a crappy video for 8 months. And I literally put it up on my Instagram because I was like, I don't have any content. I'm like so sick. I was like running around the house. I was out of time. I was just like, I just need to have something up there. And I put it up there and it exploded. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I had no idea. And then there's videos that I've put up that I work hours on, the lighting, the flowers, the this or that, and it gets like 2 likes.
Right.
So like put the work out there that you're proud of. That is my main advice, and protect your peace.
I love it. Protect your peace, which kind of you mentioned self-care a little bit too
Yeah,
earlier. You talk about self-care in your book.
yeah.
So what role do you believe flowers play in enhancing our emotional well-being and connection with nature?
I think you actually said most of it already, and I think we've talked about it too, is flowers for me have always, 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 always been my secret form of self-care. I'm sort of encouraging other people to use it in the same way. Because as designers, we often get into this work because it's not easy work. This is hard work. This is task heavy work. This is physically driven work. This is emotionally driven work. There's a lot of math that nobody wants to do in this work.
Right.
And we came into this space because we were drawn to it from a creative place. No one, I promise you, I guess I can't speak for everyone, but I've yet to meet a florist who said, I'm coming into this from a business perspective. I'm coming to this because this is a great business choice. No, there's something that we were drawn to, something deeper that we were drawn to. And so what I realized over time was that thing that I was drawn to was a chance for me to take care of myself by giving myself the space to think, right? Sort of like when we're doing dishes or crocheting or knitting or vacuuming or doing any sort of like creative task, our brain is now given the space to think and process through our day. And I would often find that I could go into flowers and be so angry. I'd be so angry at somebody. Somebody cut me off, or somebody yelled at me and I didn't deserve it. Whatever the issue was, I was mad. And by the time I was done creating whatever I was creating, I was better. I was like, oh, girl, it's not that big a deal. Or, oh, it's fine. I didn't need that toe. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Like you're able to process and move on. And I realized that there was a bigger connection. There's a bigger form of, it was a cathartic process. And so I do say that in the book, in the section where flowers are self care. I encourage all the designers and anyone who reads the book to pour their emotion and pour themselves into the work and have that work then reflected back at you, and you can then learn something about yourself. Take care of yourself. And in the end, to wrap it up, because this is a long one, I say to keep your flowers. The flowers don't have to always be given to someone. Sometimes we just need to go and make flowers for ourselves because we're used to giving away our creative energy, our life force that we put into these flowers. Keep that. Take that back. Reclaim that. Make flowers for yourself. You also deserve the gorgeous arrangement.
I love that. Of course I love that. Um, yeah, that was beautiful. Okay, so then my next question for you. So I was obviously going through your book and you have this other saying that you use. And I was laughing because our CEO, my boss, also says this. He says it's just flowers
Yeah,
because it and you've touched on this too. It's stressful. Our business is crazy. It's stressful. We're working with perishable product. We're
yeah,
working with, emotions and clients, and sometimes it's their biggest day of their life, and things
right.
can, go awry very quickly. So can you elaborate a little bit on the saying you use? It's just flowers.
Yeah, really, that's what it's about. I say that to diminish its importance and the hold it has on your life. At the end of the day, it's just flowers. Like, it's not Armageddon. It's not the apocalypse. We have to have a hierarchy in our lives. And more than anything, I want people to remember that there really are no wrong choices when it comes to flowers. It's really hard to mess it up. Whether your design aesthetic is European, whether it's wild, whether it's giving you that whole trend of giving you Brooklyn compost couture, whatever it is, it's still going to be beautiful in its own way because flowers, by their nature, are designed to attract. So I want you to take that pressure off of your shoulders, release that need to be perfect. That perfectionism really ruins so much of our experiences in life, especially creative experiences where we can beat up on ourselves and we're so mad. And like you said, it's perishable and working with the timeline and this client is crazy. And I think if you can remember, girl, it's just flowers, then you can then approach your work that way. And I often say, like, I actually don't have trouble clients. My clients are not insane because
Yay.
I come into the space and I try to control the narrative and remind them that it's just flowers. And if you present them with an opportunity to see the joy of what you're doing, then they're gonna love it too, right? If your client's difficult and you're difficult, it doesn't matter what you do, they're gonna hate your flowers. If you're lovely and you remind them and you give them the choices and the information to empower themselves so they can make the best decisions for their event or whatever they're doing, and you get to pour yourself into it, then it's gonna be great. And if all the flowers die, it doesn't matter because it's just flowers. It doesn't matter,
It doesn't matter. It's just
right?
flowers.
It's just flowers.
Yes.
Don't beat
It's
yourself
just
up.
flowers. It's just
Yeah.
flowers. Okay, so I just want a reminder because I still see some more people joining us, especially over on Instagram. Hi, guys. Make sure you participate. Give us a question, a comment, anything, because we're giving away free books at the end of this, guys. And
Yes.
yeah, I want to give it to people who are participating. So show us some love today. Um, and speaking of love, Holiday Hill Events says they want to give you a hug.
Oh.
I see Patty saying, love this person. So lots of love for you today, Kristen.
Oh, that's so sweet. Lots of flower love.
Yes, yes. And Holiday Hills Events too is saying how they always order extra flowers for themselves as well, like what we were talking about earlier, which is
Yeah.
great to hear.
Yes. Yeah, and I also do this thing where I just put out buckets of flowers, on Monday when all the flowers are, like, looking super sad. I can't stomach to throw them away, so I just put buckets out and I say, "Come get them, free flowers." I mean, they only have a day. it's not hurting me. It's going to bring you some joy. Why not spread the love for sure?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right. So, in the middle of your book, Kristen, y-
Yes.
this big book that you got here that I kind of
You
showed
see that?
earlier. Yeah. Um, you tell the story of your big break and you go into great details, but I was hoping that maybe you could share just not all the details, but just a little bit about your big break. Because I feel like it's just really inspiring, especially for those who may be starting out or they are doing the business and they're grinding hard and maybe they're feeling a little bit down about things and they might be going through a tough time. I feel like that might help some of our watchers and listeners.
I love that question. That story for me was all about talking to my inner saboteur. It was about talking to that voice that I believe can live in all of us that tells us, you ain't nothing. That tells you, yeah, no, you're not going to do this today. It's not going to be working for you. Or that says, the world is against you. Because how we perceive the information in real time is not always the reality of what's happening when you're able to step out of yourself, out of your fear, out of your skepticism, and silence the inner saboteur. And even the term, my big break, once you read the story, is not what you originally perceive it to be. And
Right.
so I thought it was really important to be able to break down uh, what really is a big break and to speak to my inner saboteur and remind myself that the real power and the real choice that I have comes down to um, how I'm going to continue to navigate the world. And I wanted every person that read that to remember that, like, they are in more control of their happiness, um, and they are in more control of their life and their own journey than they think they are. And they just need to tell that inner saboteur, brush it off their shoulder, and to keep going.
Perfect. Guys, you got to read that section in the book. Honestly, it was my favorite.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm so happy. What's funny is I actually wrote probably the intention for the book was to have a story like that after each color section. So the book is broken down into different color sections, the Roy G. Biv. So we have a red section, yellow, orange, green, blue, indigo, and violet. And in between each section, I had intended to put a different story throughout my career
Hmm.
and life in there. And my editor was like, this book is 400 pages. He was like, please, we have to cut. And I was like, okay, well, I guess no one's really here for the stories. We can just cut those. So if I ever publish a memoir, it's already halfway done.
Yeah, I want the stories, Kristen. And I mean, yeah, it was 400 pages and this ended up being like 287.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a lot that you cut.
It's a hefty book. Yes.
Yeah, that would have been huge.
An encyclopedia.
I love it. Let's see. I'm looking at the comments. We'll get to some of those in a little bit. My next question for you, Kristen, is how has your personal relationship with flowers evolved over the years, and how is that reflected in the book?
I think my personal relationship with flowers has always been about finding a way to make flowers work for me. I very much grew up in that generation, and I don't know if anyone out there can relate to that, but like my parents would always say to me, find the thing you love, do the thing you're passionate about, and the money will come. right? They would never I think that was in a pendulum swing to maybe their generation where their parents were like, get a job, provide for your families, stop complaining. And so my parents definitely raised me to be that kid that was like, follow your passions, follow your passions. And so my relationship to flowers has always been about finding a way to hold on to myself. Hold on to myself, hold on to who I am, hold on to the joy and the love and the passion that I felt for the craft while also making it work for me. And I think COVID really gave us all an opportunity to re-examine how this industry works for us. Events stopped. They just stopped. If you were an event or wedding florist, they stopped. And so you had to really re-examine your relationship. And so mine turned into really becoming one of an educator and sharing and helping others build and grow and thrive in their passion. And even now, it feels like it's become, there's like a layer of art to it as well that I really enjoy. I taught myself how to take photos of flowers. Don't ask me to take your headshots or wedding photos. Couldn't do that, but I can really take a fierce picture of a flower now. So yeah, it's about finding a way to make this joyful practice work for you. If at the end of the day, end of the week, end of the month, you are sitting there like, why am I doing this? This is so miserable. It's time to take a break. It's time to take a step back, take a break, reevaluate, have that tough conversation with yourself because life is too short to be doing stuff that you don't like.
Here, here. So true.
It's so true.
It is too short. And yeah, I have 2 daughters. We were talking about this earlier, and we always were like, yes, money's important, but you are working a lot and you need to really love what you do. Otherwise, life is not going to be very fun for you.
Right.
And yeah, you want to love what you do and love the people you work with and feel like you're putting something out in the world that you can be proud of, for sure.
Right. And another thing, just to piggyback off of that, is I also recognize that I have not arrived. And I say this in the book as well, is that like I don't feel people call me an expert. I know what I know, but I don't know everything. And I've never approached this space or this world, the flower world. I've never approached that space thinking that I know everything. There are still things, I see things on Instagram and TikTok and this and that. And I meet other florists who have all these amazing techniques and ways of building things. And I'm like, I would have never been able to think of that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think that that is something that I really want to impart on everyone in our industry is that we are only as good as the information we're able to share with each other. I found that when I was breaking into the industry, there was a lot of preciousness, secrecy, holding on to industry secrets or my trademarks or my signature style.
Right.
And the truth is that is all baloney. That is the approach of an insecure floral designer who does not want to have the competition because they don't believe that what they have to offer is of value. And you have to remember that there's no one else like you. And I say this in the book as well. I say, look, I can break it all down for you. I will tell you exactly step by step how to make this floral arrangement. But the truth is you're not going to be able to do it exactly like I did it for several reasons. A, you're dealing with the product of nature.
Yep.
It's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same. It's going to be a different color. It's going to be a different shape. There are going to be variations. Embrace those variations. And two, you're not in this brain. Inside this brain is a giant disco ball and Beyonce music playing all the time. That's very different than what's inside other people's brains. There's no way that you're going to be able to do the exact same thing. And that's not the point. You're not supposed to do the exact same thing. You're supposed to use these florals and use this guide as a path to find yourself, to find out who you are as a designer, not to become a carbon copy of me, because that is boring. Nobody wants to be that. Do you? You're fabulous just the way you are.
I love it. I love it. I had a bunch of questions, so I'm gonna ask one more of my questions, and then we'll get
Okay.
into some of the people's questions that they've posted in all the comments. Thank you guys. All right. So obviously Flower Love, guys. This is the book. I'm gonna post again the link so that way you can get it. Also, by the way, this will be like every other live that we do. Will be up on our blog with our show notes and all the links and all the things, so that way you can get to everywhere. Connect with Kristen, grab his book if you didn't want a free one, and all the things. So obviously this book was a labor of love, and just was curious on kind of what you see next for yourself in your journey with flowers.
Well, I'm just a workhorse. So I continue to just do what I've always done, which is design. That's what I love to do. That's what I've always wanted to do. And so being able to do that is always a joy. Being able to sell flowers, sell my art as well as great. And to teach is a joy of mine. So, you know, when you sort of come out with these books, and you have these big sort of like very visual creative projects, very publicly visual creative projects, I never assume that it's going to turn the tide for me in some way. I just want to keep doing what I've always done, which is what I love, and that's sharing my art through flowers and helping other people love themselves more deeply and better through the art of floral design. And yeah, and educate people too. There's a little bit of a floral education that I think we have to always address within our industry. And it comes down to pricing, it comes down to branding, it comes down to how we relate to clients, it comes down to figure out even sometimes which software works best for your business. Um, and to pull away from the norm and embrace yourself, because that's really the only way to live. For me, at least, I can't speak for everyone else, but for me, I don't think I could do this industry if I were only doing sort of this cookie cutter prescribed idea of flowers, because it's stagnant. It stagnates.
Stagnates. Exactly, exactly. Okay, so many really great questions. I saw a really big one come
Oh,
through. I
wow.
have a lot of people asking about more about social and business and things like that. But real quick, Patty wants to know, how long have you been in the biz for?
Oh, ah! Oh, wow. Well, I started officially floor designing, I would say 10 years ago is when I dropped out of grad school. I had been doing it, like I said, I had interned for a few years before that while I was in grad school, but I dropped out. Actually, it'll be in November or December. I think it was December of 2013. I left grad school and didn't finish and decided I'm going to do flowers forever, which if I would sit here and tell you, oh my gosh, it was not a decision that I didn't second guess. That'd be a lie. There have been so many times where I've been like down or even up or just bored. And I've thought, well, where would my life be if I was actually a therapist? Could I have done that? Could I have been happy doing that? And I do see that sliding door moment. Thank you, Gwyneth Paltrow. I see that sliding door moment where I believe that there could have been a path for me as a therapist, where I could have been extremely happy and very successful and done all the things and had all the vacations and all the free time and this and that. But that would have been a life where I did not know flowers. And once I ate from that, the apple of knowledge, from the tree of knowledge, there was really no going back. And I'm grateful for that. So yeah, it's been, I'll say 10 years since I left grad school.
Sorry about that ringing.
This is real life. People call.
Turn that down. It was so loud too. Don't know how that happened. Very good. Sorry to interrupt that moment.
Oh, you're fine.
It's,
You never know. It could be your kid's school.
well, it's my kid calling from school, and like they
It's
get to this
always
age, if you don't immediately like respond, it's like the end of the world.
Yeah, it's really the pits when they're at school and they're calling and you're like in the middle of something and you're thinking to yourself, is this the day? Did they fall and break their arm if I don't pick up? Right? It's just so stressful.
Yeah, I figured the school actually call me if it's a real emergency there. So,
Right. She's probably calling wanting to know where you packed her glitter pens.
yeah, you never know. You never know. Okay, so let me get to this Malva and Moss Floral Studio. They say, and this is a little bit long, but I like it all. So, social media often showcases stories of success, and it's relatively rare to find experienced florists who are willingly sharing their failures. However, we are all human, and these experiences are often the most valuable as they provide significant learning opportunities. Can you recount a time where you faced a significant setback, made a mistake, or encountered a challenge that ultimately taught you a valuable lesson and knowledge you'd like to share? And she just, was giving you some props for being authentic and open as well.
Thank you. I would say it happens every day. In I'll say it, talk about it specifically in the context of this book. So this book was originally supposed to have 100 arrangements in it, and it ended up with 45. There was a steep learning curve because I was also learning how to become a floral photographer at the same time. When I signed with my publisher to create this book, that was in September of 2020. September of 2020. We were in the middle of like COVID hell. There
Yeah.
was no way I was letting anybody into my house. And there was a time, and you'll be able to speak to this, Yvonne, when wholesalers and floral design wholesalers were able to start selling again because you guys got some sort of like special agricultural
Yes, we fought
thing
for
to
that
make
hard.
yes, right? Like you had to really fight for that. So like there was a big period where like I was just getting flowers and I was shooting them. I didn't know what I was doing. I called my friend who was a photographer. I was like, please help me. I like, can you just show me how this camera works? I went and bought this expensive camera. I don't know how to use it. And she was like, showed me a few tricks. I didn't remember any of it. I was a hot mess. It was awful. And so at least 20 to 30 arrangements I had to scrap for the book because as I did it more, as I took more photographs, as I learned about how the light worked and composition and balance and style and all of the different sort of like elements that go into making a photo successful. By the way, I also every single backdrop in the photo, I painted those as well. I
You
painted all the
did?
backdrops.
Oh my
Honey,
goodness.
all of them. All of them. I went to Joanne Fabric.
I'm looking at it again. I gotta look at it again.
Every single backdrop, like the backdrops right here, painted it. I painted every single backdrop for the book. All of this was a very steep learning curve. Pause. I'm sorry. I see a comment that says, and he's young. Someone's replying to Patty Ruff and says, and he's young. Kid, I'm turning 40 in 2 weeks. I don't know where you got young from.
You're not old though either. I'm 44. We're not old yet either.
Yeah, but don't you remember, no, but don't you remember growing up or on the cover of People magazine, it would have Brad Pitt like looking gorgeous and shirtless, and they're like, this is 40. And as like an 8-year-old or a 12-year-old, I was like, oh, 40. Oh my God, that's so old. But
Right.
it's like, no, not young at all. But thank you. I do put on lots of sunscreen. But going back to what I was saying, there's a huge learning curve going into this book. I had to learn a lot. And I think when you are able to approach any sort of creative work and I wasn't kind to myself. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is horrible. But then once after I'd put in the hours and it started to show up in the way that I had envisioned, I was able to give myself room and permission to say, you know what? Those 20 arrangements, those other arrangements that I made that were gorgeous in person, but look terrible on the page, I'm just not going to use them. And that's okay. That is the cost of this process. That was the cost of um, doing it all yourself in the middle of a pandemic where you couldn't let anybody into your space at all, right? It
Right.
was the circumstances of the time that this book was written. And also, I am not a writer. I call myself a writer now, but being able to find my voice on paper is very different than being able to find my voice um, as a writer. Because as a writer, you want to edit. You want to sound like Martha Stewart. You want to be sounding like everything is an encyclopedia and you're just the smartest person in the room. And I was just like, this makes no sense. I said, who is this talking? I rewrote so many things because I was like, that's not me. And so there was also a layer of being able to trust your own voice and figuring out a way to put your own voice on the page. Um, and that's what I love about this book is that a lot of comments that I get is, "Oh my god, I was reading it and I totally heard you in my head while I was reading the book. I could totally hear you saying this," which is a huge compliment because, I have insecurities too. I will never watch this video that's on right now. I will never watch the replay because I cannot stand the sound of my voice. I think I sound like a smoked 5 packs of cigarettes a day.
I'm
I
with you on that one. I hate it
I
when I have to edit it and I'm like,
cannot do it.
oh,
Oh my,
turn the
it's so
volume
cringe.
down.
It's so cringe. It's so cringe. I cannot do it. But I am proud of myself for forging ahead and being able to like get it done because when you're on a deadline, baby, let me tell you. Woo-hoo! And this book was late, by the way. This book was late. This book was 4 months late to my
Wow.
publisher.
Wow.
And they were like, give me that book. They were asking for pages. And I was like, it's not done. And we ended up editing it for another 9 months, maybe it was even a year, because I turned it in 2021, and now we are here no, wait, I turned it in 2022, in spring of 2022, and now we are here a year later.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's a process.
It's a process.
So I have a group of questions, but they're all kind of similar-ish and kind of touch on each other. And we have like maybe 1 minute to answer it.
Oh,
So
okay. Woo!
okay. So it's from Holiday Hill Events, and
Okay.
they say, how do you feel about styled shoots? And then the Floral Cottage is saying, kind of how much does pictures on websites make or break getting customers, which I think ties into styled shoots.
Yeah.
And then Floral Cottage kind of goes on to say, do you suggest buying a Mayesh pull and put a bunch of arrangements together when you're starting out to get pics? So kind of similar-ish.
Okay, you're gonna have to remind me of those questions. So the first one I heard was, how do I
Sh-
feel about styled shoots? I love styled shoots. I think styled shoots are a great way to explore your creativity and to showcase your work and to make connections with other vendors, right? Especially planners, photographers, um, wedding designers, wedding dressmakers. It's a great, great, great networking opportunity. Um, and it's a great way to sell the fantasy, right? To sell the fantasy of what I believe clients are looking for. They may not be able to afford that fantasy, but you can inspire them to go after it. And that's what a style shoot can really do for you. And I think they're wonderful. I would still do them if I had the time. I would love to do them. They're so much fun. Yes, do them.
And
Second,
so using them on your website, I feel like you kind of answered
yeah,
that today. Yes, it's
especially if it gets published.
yeah.
Yes, yes. Like there are no rules. Like,
And
why would
have
you not? It's
Yeah,
your
and having work on your website, I think, is really important, especially the kind of work that you want to do,
Yes,
right?
exactly. You have to put out what you want. So when people come to you, they have confidence that you can do it. If you're constantly having to sell the dream without any visuals, I'm like, no thanks. I'm not going to hire a caterer without having their food first. So yes, do it and put it on your work. Put anything that you're proud of on your work, even if it is a note from your kid's fourth grade teacher because they love the arrangement you made for them for Teachers Day. Put it on your website. This is the joy that you should be sharing and spreading with everyone because you've worked for it. You deserve it. Yes, do it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I think that was great, and I think it's time to pick winners. All right.
Yay!
So, guys, if I call your name, I need you to DM us. All right. So, and I have some from Facebook and some from Instagram. So, definitely DM us. I need your name, obviously. I need your address and I need a phone number. I'm not going to call you. I promise. I'm not like that kind of person. I just need it to ship. Yeah, we're not gonna do any of the crazy stuff that, people have when they're like, "Give us your information." We're, like, legit, I promise. Okay, so, Jill, Chaiklin, I might be mispronouncing that. She's over on Facebook, Patty Ruff on Facebook, and then on Instagram, we have Rosemary's, Garden Floral, Flowers by Bianca Jade, and Holiday Hill Events. You guys all get a book. Congratulations.
Yay!
Yay! So, Kristen, before I let you go, is there anything you want to wrap up with?
I would also want to say that this book, also in the back, which I find to be the most important resource, has what I call the flower vault,
Love it.
which is every single flower seen in the book, their name, and it's broken down by color and season. Um, Really, this book is here for everyone to be able to expand or reaffirm the love for themselves through flowers and through design. And it's a really just, I hope it's a reminder of why we do this and helps you in some way, helps you connect to yourself in some way. That's the goal. If that's what happens, amazing. And if you never read a word, it sure is pretty to look at.
It sure is. And with that, Kristen, thank you so much. You're so much fun to have on here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, this was great. And guys, make sure you grab a copy. It really is beautiful. Look at it. It's thick.
It's
Um,
thick.
it's thick. So grab a copy, support, one of our flower friends in the industry who did something really amazing. That too, I love just supporting people. So grab it, tell your flower friends. And then, of course, tell them about this really cool show that we do, Mornings with Mayesh. And I have all these great people on here. And with that, that's a wrap, guys. I appreciate your time. You spent an hour with us. Thank you so, so much. And just stay tuned for our next show. And I will see you soon. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye bye.